So your official position on your website is chief engineer of line drives. I
That's
love
right.
that. And I know maple tends to be the wood that players and teams are looking for when purchasing bats. What are the types of woods that Prairie Sticks is using, and why is maple preferred?
So we supply, or we, I guess, inventory three types of wood. So maple, birch, and ash. Maple would be the most popular out there, and it's the hardest wood that bats are made out of it, on a regular basis. And then birch is picking up some popularity. It's not quite as hard as the ash, but it's more flexible, so more forgiving. Like I like to tell people, I recommend it a lot to that 12, 13-year-old player who's making the transition from metal bats to wood bats, just because, if you do miss hit it, there's a little bit more flex to it. It may, there's less of a chance it's going to break on that first swing, right? And, cause, tears and, that first bat breaking experience. Ash, and then ash was that type of wood from, the 1800s, late 1800s that Louisville sluggers started churning. I think it was just in abundance. It had the right density to make wood bats. It still is an option, but it's becoming less and less popular. There is an insect infestation in that kind of northeast U.S. Part
So
of
it's
the country.
availability, or is it that ash just breaks
both.
more?
No, it's not that it breaks more. It's more availability, and the price has gone up on it. So it's no less expensive than maple anymore. So the supply's harder to get. There's less demand. We still do inventory it. It is an option. People do choose it occasionally, but it's a open pored wood. So with a lot of use, the grains will start to actually separate, and so the bat could be rendered useless even before it breaks. So it's just not a great option for amateur players, where the birch and the maple are closed grain woods. So with a lot of repeated use, it won't separate and it'll stay together intact. So yeah, it's a quick rundown of the three types.
So I'm curious then, what are the rules and regulations for manufacturing a bat? Are there specs and stuff that you kind of have to follow to?
Yeah, the official rules of baseball state that the bat can has to be less. I think it's 42 inches. I mean, the billets that we get are 37, so that's impossible.
Right.
I think the biggest bats we make for a player are 35, and those are few and far between. I would say the vast majority of bats we make are that 31 to 32 inch range. That teenager, even some adults are more 32, but Major League Baseball would have the most stringent guidelines as far as wood density, barrel and handle diameters, and things like that. If you're going to go, Baseball Canada or Baseball Alberta rules and regulations for bats, you'll see mostly the regulations fall under the metal bat category. We make solid one-piece wood bats, and there's essentially, as long as they're solid one-piece bats, they don't have any rules tied to them.
Right. So you'd have to work to not make a bat that would be acceptable.
You'd have to probably laminate, a bunch of pieces of wood together, make a bat out of it, and then all of a sudden it's not a solid, piece of wood, right? And then that may, get you down another path of having to get, a bat approved or something like that. So really, amateur baseball in Canada, there's so few rules and regulations that basically, you order a bat and it would fit or it'd fall underneath, category of not needing to be approved, for lack of a better term now.
Right. I know we put out there on our Instagram for all the listeners out there to any questions they may have. And one thing that and I call them nerds, I mean that with love, but a lot of the baseball nerds kept bringing up the grain of the bat. What does that have to do with hitting? And is there a certain way you want to use and connect with the,
so I like to equate it, person who does karate, chopping a piece of wood, right? They're going to not chop against the grain, but with the grain, because it's not as strong.
Right.
So what we do is we put, there's two sides of the grain. There's the face grain, which you don't see all those straight lines. And then there's the edge grain, which those are where you can see the lines of the grain. So we put on maple and birch the logos on that edge grain side. So 9 degrees out of what your grandfather may told you that's normal. And the reason for that is Major League Baseball did a bunch of studies around broken maple bats in that late 2007 to 2009. And what they concluded was that logo orientation was not necessarily the strongest, but it was the way to, when bats break, it caused the least amount of, two-piece failure. So bat heads, flying or helicoptering across the infield. So when a bat breaks with that logo orientation on that edge grain, it'll mostly just rupture and stay together. Ash will go on the face grain just because of the structure of the wood. So when players are using their bats, it's most of the time when we get broken bat pictures saying, "Hey, my bat broke too soon," the grain, or the logo orientation will always be 90 degrees out. So that's pretty much the number one factor is players don't pay attention. Like, we put the logo on a specific part of the bat for a specific reason. And players, as they're mostly during batting practice or even during that bat, they'll just rotate the bat without any sort of knowledge of where the grain is. And without fail, we'll always see the logo in the wrong spot when the bat broke.
Right.
So it is important for sure. The logo faces up and down at contact, no matter what bat you're using. So maple and birch will be on that edge grain side of the bat. Ash will be on the face grain. And there's a specific reason why the logos are where they are.